with BBC World News, our top stories. Demonstrations begin in Egypt as supporters of ousted President Mohamed Morsi take to the streets. This is the scene in Cairo's Tahrir Square, where opponents of Mr. Morsi are also expected to gather. And in another part of central Cairo, those who are supporters of the Muslim Brotherhood are also massing. In other news, Formula One drivers threatened to walk out of this weekend's German Grand Prix after last week's race when exploding tyres caused havoc on the track. And fortune teller turned fortune thief, the man accused of stealing billions from one of the world's richest women. Hello and welcome. The United Nations says it is concerned by the arrest in Egypt of leading members of the Muslim Brotherhood. The UN head of human rights, Navi Pillay, is demanding either an explanation for their detention or the release of the prisoners. Well, this is the scene outside the Rabaa al-Adawiya Mosque this morning, where supporters of the former president, Mr. Morsi, have been camping out for days, vowing to defend his legitimacy. Well, mass demonstrations have been called by the Muslim Brotherhood for after Friday prayers, so that's any time in the next hour or so. Well, Mr. Morsi is Egypt's first democratically elected president, but he hasn't been seen in public since Wednesday. Later today, the African Union meets to consider the suspension of Egypt from membership on the grounds that the army-led coup, as some people are describing it, is unconstitutional. A lot of discussion, of course, about whether it warrants being called a coup or not. Well, there has been a marked reluctance amongst Egyptian politicians to label it as a military coup. One of the best-known opposition leaders, the former nuclear negotiator Mohamed El-Baradei, says the army had to intervene to prevent civil war. He's been talking to the BBC's Middle East editor, Jeremy Bowen.
I don't think the army has taken over. I mean, the 20 million people, Jeremy, who were in the Tahrir Square and everywhere in Egypt, who asked the army to intervene because the other option was a civil war. I mean, we were between a rock and a hard place, and people need to understand that. I mean, and put it in context. You know, I will never support, an army intervention, neither now or any time in the future. I mean, and the army understand that people do not want them back. They want to see their back, in fact. They never want them to see them running the country. I mean, they had a bad experience, and they understand that. I'm pretty confident that they know that they have been called by the people, to avert a civil war. It's a painful measure. Nobody wanted that. But Mr. Morsi, unfortunately, undermined his own legitimacy by declaring himself a few months ago as a pharaoh, and then we got into as I said, a fist fight and not really a democratic process.
But you still sat there next to General Sisi as he announced that the army was taking over.
No.
Like it or not, you may not like to think of it as an intervention, but surely that's what it was.
No, it's not the army is taking over. You have now today an interim president who is the head of the Constitutional Court. Within the week, you will have a civilian government, and the army will not. And I expect that they will not show their face in any way in the political process. So it is not the army who took over. It's the army who acted on behalf of the people.
Isn't the whole point of democracy that if you want to change, you wait till the next election, you don't go to the street?
But you have to put troops in the street if you want to avoid what's happening in Somalia. You have, as I said...
Was that a real risk here?
Of course.
If you're going to have a democracy, does that mean letting the leadership of the Muslim Brotherhood out of prison and letting them organize and operate as a political leadership?
Oh, absolutely. And absolutely. I am the one who spent a couple of years before the revolution, as you might recall, calling that the Brotherhood should be part of the political process. My views are still the same. They should be part of the...
But they're back in jail like they were in Mubarak's time.
Well, for a couple of days, because, again, the answer I got that they have been plotting, they have been asking their supporter to use arms. I hope that, and my answer to that, they need to go through the court procedures, court law order. I mean, we do not want any extra anti-democratic measures, absolutely. So I'm fully concerned as you are, and I hope this situation will be put to rest in the next few days.
Mohammed al-Baradei there speaking to Jeremy Byrne. Well, during the presidency of Mohamed Morsi, opposition to his leadership was aired on Egypt's television media. However, the new army-backed authorities moved yesterday to shut down 4 Islamist TV stations. They also banned the Muslim Brotherhood's newspaper and raided the office of Al Jazeera's Egypt affiliate in a crackdown on media considered to be sympathetic to the former ousted president. Well, watching international reaction to the coup for us is BBC Monitoring's Mohanad Hashim, who joins us from Caversham in southeast England. What sort of Arab reaction, both for and against Mohamed Morsi, are you getting?
Well, Arab reactions pretty much reflect what is happening in the Egyptian street. The Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates and Qatar have all been supportive of the army's intervention in Egypt, while even the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and the Syrian media seem to welcome the military intervention in Egypt. However, in the country where the Arab Spring started first, Tunisia, it seems that the parliament is split between the majority Al-Nahda party, which is an Islamist party. Their media and their MPs consider what happened in Egypt as a coup against the legitimately elected President Mohamed Morsi. The Tunisian interim president Monsef Marzouki also said that for the Tunisians, watching what's happening in Egypt suggests that the Tunisians are on the right path and that the army's place is not to govern the country, and that it's illegal for the army according to the African Union laws. So the views are split. Whereas, for example, Egypt's neighbor Sudan, the Sudanese government, which came via coup in 1989, which is also Islamist in leaning, has issued a very cautious welcome, while the Islamist ideologue of Sudan, Dr. Hassan al-Turabi, has issued a statement denouncing the coup in Egypt as a coup against the legitimately elected president.
Egypt, of course, has always been a key player in the region. What about social media reaction?
Well, the social media reaction again mirrors what's happening. Today we have a very interesting page that has popped up in Facebook. It's an Egyptian page in English. It's called Not a Coup. And it's basically trying to defend that they say that the uprising, or it was a second revolution, there were people on the streets and the army had to side with the people. And generally, again, social media seems to be the only medium left for supporters of President Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood to communicate with their members. As you said, you know, there have been 3 television networks that were pro-Muslim Brotherhood that were taken off air immediately after General Sisi's statement deposing the president. And today their newspaper hasn't been seen. 2 other networks, the Palestinian Al-Aqsa and Jordanian Al-Yarmouk, were seen yesterday to be broadcasting material from the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood. These 2 stations today have reverted to their normal programming without any material coming out. So, and within the social media also, for the pro-Morsi pages, for example, are urging on their supporters to demonstrate across Egypt. They have been saying that there have been hundreds of thousands who've been protesting since Wednesday. They are putting links to YouTube clips showing considerable number of crowds marching across several cities and provinces in Egypt. By the same token, pages opposed to President Morsi seem to be showing videos of moments when Muslim Brotherhood leaders or TV personalities were arrested or taken off air. They are vociferous in their support for the army against its campaign of what they are starting to already label as terrorists. I mean, it might be worth it for your viewers to know that today an Egyptian soldier was killed in an attack in northern Sinai, and an army officer was injured. So the Egyptian social media, which is pro the army's intervention, is fundamentally saying that the army should crack down hard on the people who are disturbing the peace.
Mohammed Hashim, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Well, just to give you a little bit more detail on what's happened in Sinai, because Egypt has closed its border crossing with Gaza after those attacks by suspected Islamists on army positions in Sinai. 4 sites were attacked in the north of Sinai, including 2 military checkpoints, a police station and El Arish airport, where military aircraft are stationed. 1 soldier was killed and 3 were wounded. And just to let you know, another little bit of copy that's coming into us from BBC Monitoring, that an Arab language video has been circulated on through YouTube, said to be a gathering of jihadists in Egypt, Sinai, forming a formation of a war council to combat the Egyptian army. But of course, many more details constantly coming in on Egypt. We will keep you right up to date here on BBC World News.